Saturday night, best time of the week. Come on, jump up and move your feet. Swing left, swing right, hold your baby tight. It's time to play jukebox Saturday night, yeah that's right. Jukebox Saturday night. We're gonna get you moving down into your soul, cause you're never too old to rock and roll. If it's rock and roll that makes you smile, jump up, get down.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the first official podcast here on the Phantom Zone channel. So happy here to have everyone with us. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and cut the music off. Alright guys, so this is the Phantom Zone podcast. This is going to be episode 1, and this is going to be a podcast all about everything horror, Halloween, movie, TV show, costume, mask, props, whatever, anything Halloween related. Basically, we're going to be covering that. I'm going to be giving my thoughts on how, horror films that I am into, franchises that I love dearly, movies that I've recently watched that my brain is fresh with, newer movies that I can give reviews of, just different things like that. And I'm always open to suggestions. If anybody has any, movie recommendations that they would like to leave in the comments below. And if I've already seen the movie, maybe I can rewatch it and talk about it here on the podcast. So basically, we're just going to be talking about movies mainly, with some extra stuff thrown in there, such as, actually, a good thing to get this podcast started is the new Spirit Halloween 2023 animatronic lineup. Now, I'm a big fan of Spirit Halloween myself, and I was super excited when they first released the animatronics for this season. Some of them I really dig, some of them are kind of mediocre to me personally, but a lot of them are actually really cool, and I'll go ahead and get into the ones I like the most. If you've seen my previous videos, the first videos I uploaded to this channel were showcasing my Nozzles the Clown animatronic as well as my Harvester of Souls, and I have a massive animatronic collection that I just started last year. In 2021, I got one animatronic, and that was the Ghostface animatronic from Spirit Halloween, and then last year I really got into them and started basically collecting everyone I could get my hands on. So in a matter of about 4 months, my collection grew pretty extensively, and maybe at some point I'll showcase more of those if you guys would like to see that. But if you're just now, discovering my channel and wondering what it's all about, like I mentioned earlier, it's basically just about all things Halloween and horror related. I am a huge horror nerd. I can tell you pretty much anything you need to know about any horror movie. I've watched so many just in the past couple of years. Around 2020 is when I actually started getting into horror films. I had always been fans of, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Ghostface, Leatherface, all of the horror icons, but I had never actually sat down and really watched the movies because I was always kind of scared as a child to watch movies, and I was always scared to go into haunted houses. I told myself I would never do that, but actually as of last year I became addicted to going to haunted houses, and this year I'll actually be working at one of them. So it's pretty funny how my horror love kind of took a complete 360. But now I'm in love with everything, and I'll watch any horror movie that anyone has to recommend to me. I love the streaming services that are just strictly horror, such as Shudder, Screambox. You can find great, kind of B-movie horror films such as Terrifier and Terrifier 2. I also watch a lot of clown-related horror films, like those cheap, cheesy, very low-budget sort of homemade style slasher films, and you can find a lot of those on Tubi. Actually, speaking of that, I just recently watched a film on Tubi called Clowntergeist, and that was an interesting watch to say the least. It was basically about this young girl who was haunted by this entity of a clown that she kept seeing, and then it all of a sudden started coming after her friends, and it was kind of like a Nightmare on Elm Street sort of deal, where she would have dreams about the clown, but what would happen in the dreams would sometimes happen in real life, and she didn't know what was real and what was fiction. So it was an interesting movie, and not gonna win an Oscar or anything like that, but I love those movies. They don't need to meet any real standards as long as they're enjoyable to somebody to watch. And I am that somebody that will love to sit down and watch a great awful horror movie. Not to knock any films, but some of them are just bad good, and I think that they're very self-aware of themselves when they make a horror film such as that. And I was at the Lexington Rupp Arena Heritage Hall last year for Scarefest, and that was a very fun convention. I actually cosplayed there. Let's see. The first day I just kind of went casual, did a vampire style thing. The second day I believe I did like I did like a clown thing that I had gotten. It was like a Ronald McDonald Killer Clown sort of spin-off thing. And then on the last day, which was Sunday, I actually dressed up as Shorty from Killer Clown. So if anybody was at Scarefest in Lexington last year, and on Sunday you saw a very short Shorty walking around holding the cotton candy blaster, you probably saw me. You can actually find a couple clips of me and my girlfriend at Scarefest on some different YouTube channels about the event. But anyway, while I was there, I stopped by a couple booths that had some indie horror films, and there was one booth that had a movie that they had released called Hellvan. And I got the Blu-ray disc of Hellvan and watched it not too long after I'd picked that up. And it was an enjoyable, cheesy, low-budget horror film, and I was all for it. And it was one of those movies that is just like, what am I sitting here watching? But you kind of just want to keep revisiting it every once in a while, because it just makes you for me personally, it just makes me feel very nostalgic and happy when I watch films like that. Because when I was younger, I used to love the old, I actually wanted to make my own homemade films, and I wanted to make a Friday the 13th style fan film, which obviously didn't work out. Too good for a young kid with just big ambitions, But now I'm very happy to be starting my own podcast, talking about my love of horror, and hopefully some of you will resonate with some of the things that I'm saying and get to relate to it. But anyway, we're gonna talk about the new animatronics for Spirit Halloween's 2023 Halloween lineup. The new ones that we have this year is the Black Heart animatronic. I believe the 4.5-foot scary sitting scarecrow is new for this year. I know they've had sitting scarecrows in the past seasons, but I believe this guy is new for this year. We had the Poor George animatronic, the Grave Watcher, Eternal Rest, which is like a Tombstone style animatronic. We have Dagger Mike, which is a clown. Gotta love those clowns. We have the Crypt Keeper animatronic, which I believe is an officially licensed Tales from the Crypt Keeper. And he's a little bit more on the expensive side, along with their new Slim animatronic. He retails for about $400 USD. And if you're ordering it on the website, plus a little bit of oversized shipping, I'm not really going to go too crazy with buying animatronics this year. I might get one or two maybe, but, the way I have my collection, I can't really display it because, where I'm located at, there's not really a good place to display it. And, if I don't want them to get rain damaged, because it's an investment. It really is. And when you're a horror lover like me, you do invest a lot into your passion, which is what I've done. But I couldn't be happier with where I am. I have a great love for horror and a great passion. So what, if it makes you happy, I say go for it, But going along with these animatronics, we have the creepy rising doll. We also have the 7.2-foot slim animatronic from the great film Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And they also released their 5-foot shorty animatronic a couple years back, and that is one in my collection. This may be an unpopular opinion, but I actually prefer shorty with the clown hands instead of the boxing gloves. Again, that may be a very unpopular opinion. I don't know most people's preference on that, but for me personally, I just enjoy the normal clown hands. The boxing gloves, they're very overused, I feel, with shorty. The one scene, what are you gonna do? Knock my block off or whatever? It's a great scene. It's an iconic point in the film, but I do love those clown hands. And there's actually a great store on Etsy. I believe it was Etsy, and I can't or no, I believe it was sorry, my mind is going blank, but it's the same place I got my Friday the 13th Part 3 hood from. Uh, DSSmask.com is where my hood came from. Darkside Studios. I believe the owner's name is Paul from Darkside Studios. But anywho, I got my Killer Clowns from Outer Space shorty hands from him as well, and he just does amazing work. So I highly recommend you guys check out his website if you're looking for some Jason Voorhees cosplay, or you're looking to collect some Killer Clowns hands. He's very reasonably priced for great quality stuff, so I highly recommend him to any horror cosplayers. We also have the Lil Jack Carver animatronic, which is sort of like a zombie jack-o'-lantern scarecrow hybrid. That's basically the way that I can explain it if you haven't seen it yet. And we have the 7.9 foot Stilts animatronic, and this guy kind of reminds me of Cackles the Clown that was released from Party City last year. I know a lot of animatronic collectors were going crazy over that guy. Sadly, I never got my hands on Cackles, but he was a real cool character. But I gotta say, I like Stilts more because I like the bowling pin, the bloody bowling pin, whole juggling thing he's got going on there, and I love his hair. It kind of reminds me of like a snow cone, like those triangle shaped paper snow cone holders. Uh, and I think that's it for their new ones. Oh no, excuse me. They actually have a Leatherface animatronic that I don't believe is available for sale on their website yet. I know some of their new animatronics are, and a lot of them sold out very quickly. And for good reason, because these are some incredible animatronics. But they also released the Pretty Woman mask variant of the Leatherface animatronic, which is my personal favorite for this lineup. I know Lowe's also released a Leatherface animatronic, but it is the 1974 Killing Mask version of Leatherface. Leatherface is one of my all-time favorite horror icons. I know that Spirit Halloween released their Horror Babies line, which consists of Ghostface, Leatherface, and a few others. And it's just Spirit Halloween always knocks it out of the park with everything that they put out. It's they always go on theme with the most popular franchises, and it's incredible to see how many franchises they really do incorporate into their repertoire. They have Ghostface, Sam from Trick or Treat, Pennywise, and Leatherface in their Horror Baby line that is brand new for this year. And my personal favorite is Leatherface. I do believe he looks the best, and I know one of my favorite YouTubers, Pizzowl, who actually made my Jason Part 3 hockey masks, so big shout out to Pizzowl. You guys can go check him out on YouTube. Shoot him an email if you'd like to order a very, very nice screen-accurate replica Jason Hawk. Very reasonably priced as well. Got to me very quickly, and it is the most screen accurate. I don't think you can get much better. The way that it's bended, the way it looks, the shape of it is just absolutely perfect. So it looks incredible resting on my DSS Mask Jason Part 3 hood. I have a pretty big collection of Trick or Treat Studios masks as well. Some of this podcast will also just be me talking about some of my collection for those of you who are interested. I have some Michael Myers masks that I've collected over the years from Trick or Treat Studios, some Leatherface masks. I believe I have 3 different Leatherface masks from Trick or Treat Studios, because I'll tell you guys a little bit of a funny story with me in 2021. 2021 was really the year for me in cosplay. Seemed like every week I was trying to cosplay a new horror icon. But when it came to Leatherface, since I believe Trick or Treat Studios had some issues with the license there, and so they stopped selling their Leatherface items for a good while, at least a few selected items there. And so it was extremely hard to find places that you could actually get the Trick or Treat Studios Leatherface masks, because if you don't want to go to some crazy, accurate Etsy shop maker or anything like that. More power to the people who really want to go for that screen accurate look. But for me personally, I'm more of just a laid back Trick or Treat Studios kind of guy. So I was doing all of the research I could, and I stumbled upon, I believe I got my Pretty Woman mask from Amazon of all places. Amazon really comes through for you in those times of need. But there's a great website out there called Crypt Keeper's Halloween Emporium, and you can get basically anything in the world Ghostface related off of that website, and I have really put that to good use. I remember back in 2021 when the new Ghostface line from Fun World was released. Ghostface is another one of my big favorite horror icons. And so I definitely was every day browsing their website, seeing what new arrivals they had. And now, if you look, they've got just about anything. It's amazing because, I don't believe you can order directly from Fun World, which is pretty disappointing because all of the stuff that you can find on the Fun World catalog is just everything you want. If you don't know what Fun World is, they are a costume maker, and you can find a lot of their products in select stores such as Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, different pharmacies and retail stores, and stuff like that around the Halloween season. They've made some of the most popular Halloween masks sold in grocery and retail stores. So they're a very nostalgic brand for me because I remember when I used to be a young child going trick-or-treating, I would always see the Fun World masks, and at that time I wasn't very, up to date with everything that was going on in the Halloween world, so I didn't really know, what I was looking at, and so I missed out on a lot of good stuff that was readily available to me as a child before I became obsessed with horror and Halloween. But I'm going to talk about a franchise that I've just recently finished. Actually, tonight I watched the final installment so far of the Wrong Turn franchise. If you guys do not know what the Wrong Turn franchise is, I highly recommend you look it up, watch all of the films. You will love it if you love gory, bloody, crazy, just really out there, what the heck horror. It is basically the rundown of the franchise, at least the first 6 installments of the franchise, consists of these cannibalistic killers living in the woods, and they're like mutants, they're deformed, and the 3 main characters is Three Finger, One Eye, and Sawtooth, and my personal favorite character from the franchise is Mr. Three Finger himself. And they basically just, any teens that go make a wrong turn and go into their parts of the woods, they usually don't make it out alive. You always have your final boy and girl that come out of the films, but most of their friends don't make it. And there are 7 installments. There are 6 original films, I believe, and 1 remake. The 2021 film Wrong Turn really doesn't go along with the previous installments in the franchise, but it is a really good standalone movie by itself. It's really wacky. It's the longest runtime of any film in the franchise, but it is a very fun movie to watch. And yes, that was released in January of 2021, and it's a franchise that I can revisit as many times as I would like, because another thing about me is I love physical media. Yes, I watch a bunch of movies and TV shows on streaming, and that's how I stream music through Spotify, but I really love putting a Blu-ray disc in and watching it like that. That's honestly probably my favorite way to watch a film, is just to have the Blu-ray or DVD or 4K, whatever it may be, physically in your hand, because it's like you are in possession of the film, and no matter what streaming services either have it at one point, lose it the next, it moves on to another streaming service, you'll always have it in your collection, and you can always look on your shelf and say, hey, that's a movie that I'd like to rewatch, and just pull it out and pop it in, and there you go. No ads, no nothing. It's, I believe physical media is still very alive and well, which is great, but I also wish more people would go back to physical media. Don't get me wrong, streaming is great. It's very convenient. It's very fun to do. You can just get on your laptop or TV, whatever it may be, and just open an app, and there's all the movies you could want to watch. But I don't know, it's something about owning that physical media, that physical movie in your hand and opening it, especially opening a new Blu-ray. That's it's like a kid in a candy store with me. But anyway, back to the Wrong Turn franchise. The first film is probably the best cinematic film in the franchise, which most franchises are like that. The original Halloween is probably the most masterpieceful film in the franchise. The original Friday the 13th is a great serial killer horror film. I'm actually rewatching the Friday the 13th and Halloween film sagas, I guess you would call it, currently. And just the other night I watched Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which, if you don't know, is not really along the same storyline as the Michael Myers stories in Halloween. They kind of wanted to go off the beaten path with an anthology series. I believe that's what John Carpenter tried to do with Halloween. But then when Season of the Witch came out and people saw there was no Michael Myers, it created a craze, and they were like, we have to have Michael Myers back. So in Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers comes back. And I love those characters like Laurie Strode, Michael Myers, Dr. Loomis. Just great characters and all around awesome movies to watch. The original and Part 2 definitely stand the test of time for me. I believe my favorite film from the franchise is probably Halloween 2. It's set mostly in the hospital, and it's the direct sequel to the 1978 John Carpenter film Halloween. And 2021's Halloween Kills is also a direct sequel to, the 2018 Halloween is a direct sequel to the original as well. But, Halloween 2, there's just something about it. Some of my favorite scenes in any horror films were in Halloween 2. The scene where Michael takes the scalpel, I think, and he lifts the nurse up, in the hallway. Is just a very eerie, creepy scene. But in the original Halloween, we get the scene where he kind of tilts his head, and as Nick Castle said, I believe in a Dead Meat interview, he said, he was admiring his work, and I think that is a great way to put it, because it really shows that Michael is just a cold-blooded killer, and that is what he was born to do. And he has the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. But yeah, I love the Halloween franchise. And I also recently started to rewatch the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise with the 1984 original Nightmare on Elm Street starring Robert Englund and Heather Langenkamp. And Nightmare on Elm Street was actually the first horror film that I actually sat down and watched, and that was my introduction into my love of horror. I believe it was 2020 when I watched that film, and it has just never stopped from there. I have watched countless horror films, and, just never stopped loving it. And after I, started watching interviews with the directors and watched behind the scenes stuff and really figured out how these movies were made and watching cast interviews, I just really got into the making of film. That's one of my biggest dreams in life, is to become a horror filmmaker. It'd be cool to act in them and be the leading guy in a horror film or the killer, but I think that it would be almost even more fun to be behind the camera directing a horror film and making the magic happen on screen for horror fans like myself to enjoy and cherish forever. It's incredible to have a piece of work that you did that will be out there forever, because film will never die. And especially horror films, because we're still going crazy about movies that came out in the mid to late 70s, 60s, and even the Universal monster movies that came out as early as the 1920s and 30s. One of my favorite films is the original Dracula from 1931, which, by the way, is my favorite Universal monster. I've seen all of the main original Universal monster movies, The Wolfman, The Mummy, Frankenstein, Dracula, Bride of Frankenstein, and The Invisible Man. But I recently got a really cool box set that has, I believe it's a 30 film compilation of all of the original monster movies, plus all of their sequels and, what have you. So, and as well as The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Can't forget The Creature. which going back to Trick or Treat Studios, they did a great line of Universal Monster masks. I have two from that line, the Frankenstein's monster and the creature from the Black Lagoon. The creature from the Black Lagoon mask is by far the best one, in my opinion, of the Trick or Treat Studios Universal Monster movie character line. But yeah, so like I said, I just want to repeat, if anybody has any recommendations for any horror films to watch, any new masks that might be released that you would like to hear my thoughts on, I am always open to suggestions. If you would like me to leave a review of maybe your favorite horror movie to see what my thoughts are, I'd be very happy to do that. And, I'm always open to anything horror and Halloween related. I just recently went to the theater and watched Insidious, The Red Door, which is the 5th installment in the Insidious franchise. And I'll talk about Insidious a little more later on, but that is another great franchise that I've rewatched, that franchise, I believe fully twice, but I believe I've seen the original 3 or 4 times now with my girlfriend, and it's just that's a really fun franchise to watch. But I tell you, those are the scariest horror films I have ever seen. I don't usually get really scared watching horror, but those films, sometimes I have to close my eyes. I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes I actually do have to close my eyes because I'm so scared of what the jump scare is going to be, even though I've seen the film before. I believe the worst jump scare in the Insidious franchise is in Insidious 4, The Last Key, when Elise Rainier, played by the legendary, iconic horror actress Lin Shaye, when she goes to open the briefcase and the key, demon, key face demon jumps out. That really, that got me the first time I watched it. I closed my eyes because I knew it was about to happen. Or actually, I think that was the second time I watched it, but the first time I forgot that it was going to happen, so it got me. Yeah, and that's, like I said, Lin Shaye, she's been in so many films. It's hard to watch a horror film and not see Lin Shaye in it, which I'm not complaining. She is a great actress. She played the teacher in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. And she was in she was in a really goofy movie, Dumb and Dumberer, which is a sequel to Dumb and Dumber. It doesn't star Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels, but I believe the casting choice to play a younger version of Harry and Lloyd it couldn't have been better. That was a real fun film to watch, but Lin Shaye was in that as well. And I also do want to point out, this podcast doesn't have to just be about horror. It can be about comedy movies, stand-up specials, Netflix series, anything you want to hear me talk about. You just let me know and I will get right on it. I love recording podcasts. Like I said, this is my first official one here on the Phantom Zone, but hopefully this will be one of many more to come. And let me know if you guys are enjoying the podcast by if you would please like the video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on when I do upload a podcast. I think the podcast schedule will be every Wednesday unless more and more people start to notice it. Then maybe I'll do a couple a week, but for right now I think one a week is good. And I hope that you guys enjoy this because I'm having a lot of fun doing it. This is something that I enjoy. It's something I'm passionate about, talking horror with you guys. And so, like I said, please don't hesitate to reach out in the comments and let me know what you've been up to, what some of your favorite horror movies are, what some of your favorite Spirit Halloween animatronics are, what some of your favorite Trick or Treat Studios masks are. Just anything and everything you guys want to talk about, we can discuss it on the podcast. And another cool thing is if anybody would like to be a guest on the podcast, we can also make that happen. The way we can do that is if you reach out to the Instagram account, which is the Phantom Zone on Instagram. You can private message me on Instagram saying that, hey, I'd like to be in the podcast. my name is so and such, and some of my favorite horror movies are this and that, and I'd like to talk about this on the podcast, and just anything like that. We can have you call in, set up a time for you to call into the podcast, and we can talk horror together here on the show. But once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 1 here on the Phantom Zone, and I hope you've enjoyed it, because I know I certainly have. So thank you guys so much, and I look forward to doing more of these.
Saturday night, best time of the week. Come on, jump up and move your feet. Swing left, swing right, hold your baby tight. It's time to play jukebox Saturday night, yeah, that's right. Jukebox Saturday night. We're gonna get you moving down into your soul, 'cause you're never too old to rock and roll. If it's rock and roll that makes you smile.